I've always wondered why we can't sit on benches in Honkai Star Rail still. This should be a quality of life that gets added just for me, just so I can sit on benches for videos instead of my character stand up for hours on end because I ramble and talk too much in my videos. Hey, Toshi here. Kafka is a character that is going to be going away really soon. She's a character I've been having a lot of fun with. She's a character I got on the second day of her banner. Yes, that's right. I went ahead and rolled for the character because just like you, I have mommy issues. But she's a character that was definitely worth every single hard pity I had to go for her. At least I got a weapon and didn't lose my 50-50 on a weapon. And if I sound a little weird in today's video, I apologize. I still am getting over my what makes Kafka great is a bunch of factors. One of the best factors is, of course, her appearance. She has an appearance that no one can deny is one of the best, if not the best, in Honkai Star Rail right now. I mean, of course, I am biased. I will always say a character like Bronia looks the best because she does to me. But to the vast majority of players in Honkai Star Rail, you definitely think Kafka looks the best. The second factor of what makes Kafka one of the best characters at this point in the game, as we covered in previous videos, is because she's very flexible in the relics she can use. I currently use, get this, a 4-piece quantum set on my Kafka that I was farming, or I farmed for when I was farming for my other characters like Silverwolf and Seal. Damage over time in Honkai Star Rail does not ignore the enemy's defense, so only characters like Luca can do true damage to enemy with the bleed effect. But this allows Kafka's dots to do more damage to enemy, which scales really hard into the late game when you take into consideration A, the enemies will have much higher defenses because their levels will be a lot higher, and B, if you're using a character like Silverwolf in the same team comp, then you'll be able to decrease the defenses of the enemy even more, which will extremely greatly increase the damage of your Kafka's dots. It's very nice. But then there's the lightning set that gives her a lightning damage bonus, which is directly funneled to her dot damage, and then attack increase after using her skill, which is very important because as soon as you use your skill on Kafka, you're going to be proccing the dots anyways. And this works out for Kafka even more because that one turn goes after you use your skill or after you take your turn. So you can use your elemental skill and then use your ultimate right after and still have the attack increase for both abilities. But I've also been seeing people use 2-piece speed increase, which is pretty valuable for a character that wants to take as many turns as she can get. She's a very selfish character. She wants to eat up all the skill points while also being able to take as many turns as she can take. So she benefits from speed increases because that means more damage she's able to output before the enemy even takes their turn. So while I was farming for the quantum set, I realized that I didn't have to go for crit pieces for my Kafka, so all I needed to do was just get main stats, and that in turn made farming really easy for a character like this, that acts as your main DPS. Attack percent main stat on your chest piece, which is very easy to get, and you don't even need to worry about the substats. Speed is always going to be very nice, and flat attack can be pretty good. Speed main stat for the boots, which is hard to come across, so I won't lie, because it does have one of the lowest drop rates in the game. But you're able to craft this with one of your free crafting resins you can use, and you can get the main stat, and you literally don't have to worry about any of the substats you get on these speed boots. My lightning damage boost spear has horrible substats as well. And I'm using attack percent link rope, which also has the stats are pretty good on this one, I won't lie. And you won't believe this, but all of that farming took me a day to do. Of course, it is lucky that I did get lots of rolls into attack percent, but even if I didn't get the attack percent rolls, I still would have had a Kafka that was primarily easy to build. So you have the easiest character to build currently in Honkai Star Rail. Speed and attack percentage is all you need for this character. Effect hit rate can be nice, but you don't need astronomically amounts of it. And characters like Pela can provide you with a little bit of effect hit rate anyways, so it's not even like you need it on the character at all. When it comes to light cone choices, of course Kafka's 5-star best in slot, limited light cone is always going to be best for the character. But one of the things worth noting is that I would even recommend players to go for this light cone, because the truth is, there's so many strong options in the Path of Nihility, and you probably have some 4-star options that have tons of refinements you can use on your Kafka, which will greatly increase her damage, her dot damage, and overall enhance her performance in her team comps. This 4-star light cone you literally get for free in Boulder Town is really good for Kafka, You can unlock refinements for it through the Forgotten Memories of Chaos or from the weekly bosses you fight in Honkai Star Rail. You can also get it from those drops from the weekly bosses, which makes this a light cone that you can refine very easily. And we're also getting a 5-star Nihility light cone from her to shop, which is going to be very good for free-to-play players. That's going to be a very nice option to use on Kafka because we can infer that is going to help or support most of the Nihility characters that probably do damage over time. And if we take into considerations being released right around when Kafka's banner is going away, it makes sense that it would be geared for a character like Kafka just to entice players to not skip a character like Kafka in the future. I did mention that I love using Silverwolf with Kafka, and these two have been my favorite duo to use with one another currently. The truth is I stopped using Seele completely, unless I'm doing Forgotten Memories of Chaos. Then I'll use the character, of course. But Kafka has been a lot less stressful to use, because for a character that does not crit, or doesn't need to crit at all, is able to utilize a character like Silverwolf or any offensive debuffer or any offensive buffer in the game. She's a very flexible character, and she's a character that I said before is less stressful, because my Seele misses a lot of crits. Even if you don't have Silverwolf, you still have access to many supports in the game. You can use a character like Asta, who I've also been using with my Kafka whenever I use Himiko as well. And these two characters work really well together, because Asta is a character that gives a speed buff and an attack buff, which is very valuable for a character like Kafka. A speed buff that scales really high depending on the level you have on this ultimate trace is very valuable for the character that you want to primarily just have attack and speed on anyways. And then an attack increase that is not hard to keep up on the character is very valuable. If you also take into consideration that a character like Asta may get stunned, you'll still have the attack buff on your Kafka and the whole team, which makes it even more valuable compared to some other supports in the game. And characters in the Harmony path have a higher taunt value, so they're more likely to be resulted in being hit by the enemy, which will in turn may end up in that character being CC'd. Which is good for a character like Asta because this character doesn't even care if she's CC'd or not. Speaking of characters that are constantly hit all the time, Ting Yun is a very nice option to use alongside Kafka. Heck, you can even use her in a mono team comp with Silverwolf and Kafka, which is very valuable if you have a character like Bailu as well, which I don't have unfortunately. But anyways, Ting Yun is a very valuable character because she acts as a buffer, a attack buffer, a speed buffer also, while potentially giving the character a full battery. It's very nice. If you also take into consideration, that means more damage for a character like Kafka. Energy to the ally is very good, and it also increases their elemental damage bonus. Very valuable for Kafka anyways, because that increases her dot damage, and energy funneled directly towards her ultimate means the character will be having a lot more uptime on her ultimate, which will proc the dot's AoE even more. But the most differentiating factor about this character compared to other characters in the Harmony path is that she is a battery supporter for your DPS characters. Fun fact, did you know that 5-star Bronia's light cone actually used to give energy to the ally whenever you use the elemental skill on the ally? Just let that sink in for a little bit. How OP would that be with a character like Ting Yun, who gives even more energy with her ultimate and with her Eidolons? And how could I not forget Bronia? This character is very valuable with Kafka because she also is a very nice buffer for the character. Bronia gives so much elemental damage bonus to the ally she's buffing, while also increasing their attack and crit damage. The crit damage portion doesn't matter for a character like Kafka, unless of course you have a Kritka, then that part of Bronia matters even more. But Bronia is a very valuable character too because she also gives a cleanse to that ally, which makes her a very nice character to use in a team comp with Kafka if you don't have anyone else that can cleanse the ally. A 15% attack increase before you even start the battle is very good for Kafka. More attack increase is even more valuable for Kafka. Elemental damage bonus with a cleanse on top of it is good for Kafka as well. And then when Bronia is on the field, you will deal even more damage with Kafka. And if you're like me and you don't have access to the 5-star light cone and you use this 4-star option, which is a very nice alternative, you'll give even more elemental damage bonus to an ally, which means that a character like Kafka is going to be doing a buttload of damage. So you essentially have one character that may just end up being the best supporter for Kafka, but the only problem is that it comes at a price, a skill point price. You see, a character like Bronia and Kafka are very skill point hungry, and if you have these two characters in your party, you better hope your other two options don't burn up as many skill points either, because then you have a team that is going to be very hard to function with. Oh, Eidolon 1 for Bronya? Yeah, this doesn't exist. This never procs. Kafka also has the most free-to-play friendly teams in the game. If you take into consideration Natasha and Asta are two characters you get for free, and then Luca is a character you're probably going to get when you're rolling for Kafka. Sampo is a character you may already have, or if you don't have him, then you may get him on the banner with Kafka. And Serval is another character that works really well with Kafka, who you also get for free. So 3 of her best supporters you can get for free in the game, meaning you only need one character to make this team actually work, and that is Kafka. Now, is Serval the best option out of all the other characters that you can use with Kafka? Probably not. But I'd say for many players that don't have access to as many characters as other players might have, then you still have a very nice option or viable option to use alongside your Kafka. I've even seen this very interesting team with Su Shang that could also work. You see, Su Shang can apply bleed to the enemy because she is always hitting the enemy's weakness constantly, which allows the character to act as a damage over time dealer, funny enough. And personally, my favorite team to use right now, and that is of course before Green Knife Fen comes out, then I probably will sadly replace Himiko, but in slot of that character I have Himiko, who works really well with Kafka, meaning Himiko finally now has a team that works really well for the character. And with the ever-growing Nihility path, like I said, we're getting Green Knife Fen, who is going to be really good with Kafka, and we probably will get an ice damage over time dealer in the future, or maybe an ice supporter who will be very good with dot-based characters. So Kafka is a character that will constantly gain value in the long term, meaning she's a very nice character to have on your account, a very nice character to utilize on your account, and a character you can't go wrong with summoning. So there you have it. Those were the things I thought Kafka excelled really well at. Now, of course, there is one big con to the character, and that is the fact that dots in this game count as debuffs, which that's what they count as in every single game. But what we don't have in the game currently is a way for the enemies to ignore debuffs entirely, which means we'll probably get that sometime into the future. And for a character like Kafka, that probably is a death sentence to her. Unless you are a Kritka user, then you probably won't be phased by that at that point. So let's just say that. But she's a character that I think for many players is going to be very good long term. We have some other characters on the way like Green Knife Fen, maybe an ice damage over time user in the future, not Yang Qing, and I think she'll be a very nice character to use alongside those damage over time carries, meaning she'll have even more options, so you can just utilize what you have on your account or what characters you like to use anyways, or maybe you like the designs of those characters like Green Knife Fen like me. Okay, I've been talking for long enough. I'm going to end the video here. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed and have a nice rest of your day. Peace.